We've got new juicy comments from Kevin Feige regarding the MCU after Avengers Endgame. Is hashtag Loki lives going to be a real thing, and what can we expect from the coming Eternals movie? Well, we've got all the details right here, right now. Stay up to date about the nerdy things that you care about. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode. What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday to you. I am, of course, Josh, and this is, of course, the Den of Nerds. Man, we've got some cool comments by Kevin Feige all about the MCU after Avengers Endgame. But before we get into all of that, let us shout out Ryan Leonard. Yes, indeed, Suicide Squad did win the Oscar for Best Costumes before any MCU movie. I personally think that's a travesty, and I remember I reacted pretty poorly when Suicide Squad won that Oscar. But you know your stuff, Ryan, so shout out to you, and we'll do another nerd card question at the end of this video. President of Marvel Studios Kevin Feige has been dropping a lot of truth bombs and teasing and hinting at crazy things to come in the MCU after Avengers Endgame. Let's first talk about the Disney Plus streaming service and all of the shows that are being developed over there. There's been a lot of confusion and questions about these shows over on Disney Plus. A lot of this has to do with the Loki series and different rumors and things that we've been hearing behind the scenes about that show. And the big question is this Marvel Television or is this Marvel Studios? How exactly is this going to tie into the MCU? I believe the fear is from a lot of fans that these are sort of going to be MCU light shows, or perhaps shows that are not really connected to the canon of the MCU very intrinsically, and they are instead just focusing on things that are already popular from the movies. Yesterday, while talking with comicbook.com, Feige clarified by saying the following: these will be Marvel Studios productions. Kevin Feige told comicbook.com they will be entirely interwoven with both the current MCU, the past MCU, and the future of the MCU. So this clarifies a couple of different things. I mean, first of all, they're being developed by Marvel Studios. And so all of the production that they have over at Marvel Studios, and I think where they shoot all this stuff, is going to be, accessible for these shows. And so they are essentially being developed by the movie side of Marvel Studios. Marvel Television is not involved with these shows for Disney Plus. And what that means is you could likely see characters from MCU movies being in these shows. I mean, one of the big confusing things with the Loki series was what kind of a role was Tom Hiddleston going to have? We heard reports that he was actually only going to be doing voiceovers and a little bit of cameo stuff here and there, and that there was going to be a younger actor, a reincarnated version of Loki that was going to be for the majority of screen time in that show. That has since been debunked, and people have confirmed that Tom Hiddleston is doing way more than just cameo work and voiceover work. He's going to be a big part of this show. And so we can expect a lot of other MCU characters to pop up here. One of the things that Marvel Studios in particular is great at doing is figuring out scheduling for actors. I mean, honestly, it can't be understated how tight of a ship they run over at Marvel Studios and how they are able to get these actors that all have crazy schedules and other obligations to all be in one place for one scene at a time. And you'll see that in the shows for the streaming service. It's gonna be pretty freaking cool. Now, right now, the reports are out there that the Loki show, which just got a showrunner and a writer from the newest season of Rick and Morty, is actually developing the pilot for that show. But the word is right now that this will follow Loki popping up at different historical events in the history of humanity and being an influencer as the god of mischief. And so this implies that the show will sort of take place before Infinity War and throughout history, and we know that the Asgardians live for a long, long time, but throughout human history, Loki's gonna pop up and just be kind of meddling in the comings and goings on of humanity. So the big question here is, what does this mean for the character currently in canon? Did he actually die in Infinity War? Is he coming back? I know Thanos said no resurrections, but is he coming back in some way? We know from set photos that Loki is indeed in Endgame, but it is likely just in the scene for the Battle of New York, which is either like a time jumpy thing or happening in a parallel universe. And so it's a weird thing, like we're getting more Loki. This show seems like it's going to be pretty freaking amazing, but it doesn't guarantee that Loki's going to be coming back and that we're going to see more of Loki and Tom Hiddleston's Loki in future MCU movies. I would say it's certainly possible, and I think that they know they've got a really good thing going with Loki. That's why they're doing the show. He's a very popular character, but I also think that the MCU in general is going to sort of take a different direction, and so the Avengers might not be an immediate focus of what's going on in the canon, and the Asgardians themselves might not be a big focus of what's going on in the canon. And so they might shelve Loki for a while when it comes to the movies, but obviously we'll get a big taste of Loki, a big fill of Loki. God, that sounds kind of fucking wrong. But you know what I mean. We're going to be getting a lot of Loki flavor on that streaming show, so that's pretty cool. Let me know what you think about this, guys. Are you pretty excited that Marvel Studios is confirmed to be taking control of all of these streaming shows? Kind of means we'll be getting a really nice level of production and all of the actors and actresses that we're used to popping up on these shows. Now let's talk MCU after Avengers Endgame. Kevin Feige recently spoke about this and said some pretty interesting things. So it's been a huge question for everybody. What's going to be happening after Phase 3? What does the future of the MCU look like? And obviously Marvel is playing their cards pretty close to the chest when it comes to that. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in Endgame. It's a huge secret of how that ends and what the MCU will look like after that. But in general, we're all curious as to, are we going to be getting another big announcement? Are they going to be slating films? The X-Men and the Fantastic Four are coming. What's the MCU going to look like after Endgame? Check out these comments by Kevin Feige, which shed a little bit more light on the situation. He says, everything after Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home will be different and be unique, as we try to make every film. But seeing returning characters is certainly something we're going to do and want to do. But also introducing characters that the majority of the world has never heard of, much like the Guardians, much like Avengers before we made Avengers. And there are a lot of them. Eternals is one group, but we like the idea of introducing an ensemble and doing an ensemble movie from the start as opposed to building up as we did with the first Avengers. More like Guardians, not tonally, but in terms of introducing the new group of people. You were asking about the 60s and 70s before. Jack Kirby did an immense, amazing epic with Eternals that spans tens of thousands of years. And that's also something we really haven't done, which is why that, among many other things post-Endgame, we find appealing. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here, but I think the main overall takeaway is that they want to do a lot of new stuff post-Avengers 4. There are a lot of groups, comics, and characters that people have never heard of, and I think that Kevin's smart to be like going after things that are a little less well-known. I mean, the Avengers themselves, as he kind of pointed out, were second tier to the Justice League for sure before the movies. And the same thing with the Guardians. Like, Guardians was a great comic book run. I loved Bendis' work on that run specifically, and even before that, there were a lot of great stories, but they were kind of obscure to comic book fans in general. And now it's like a huge property for Marvel. Now, when it comes to Eternals specifically, I think it's pretty cool that it's going to be an ensemble and that it's going to be an epic that spans tens of thousands of years. I mean, that seems very interesting as a film, and it would be a much bigger scope of time than anything we've currently seen in the MCU so far. We go all the way back to Captain America in World War II, very interesting, and then we of course get the 90s now with Captain Marvel, and all the way up to, you know, current timeline in the MCU. But if the Eternals go all the way back to thousands of years and possibly reach thousands of years ahead of where we are currently at in the timeline, I mean, there's so much room there to put so much lore and cool connective tissue for other creators and filmmakers to latch onto. I just think it's awesome. It's a great opportunity. And it also points to them, you know, wanting to, of course, bring in familiar characters, because I think that's like a foundation of the MCU. The fact that they have the majority of the same actors playing these roles for so long has really built in this connective tissue and really built in this loyalty and trust with these films and with this brand. And of course they want to do that, but they really need to open it up and start to go into some really interesting and crazy places. Now let's go to Speculation Town for just a quick second here. There is a big rumor out there that we're going to be getting another huge film slate released or a big announcement at San Diego Comic-Con later this year. Now, of course, all of the Marvel movies will be out by then. We will know how Avengers Endgame ends. We will know what Spider-Man Far From Home does with the canon, and that is the perfect opportunity and stage to announce a bunch of crazy stuff that's happening. Now, clearly Eternals is being streamlined and taking the place of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Now, I personally think we're still getting Guardians. It'll still be James Gunn's script. It's just sort of taking a backseat and allowing some of that drama to die down. And because Marvel and Kevin Feige are so focused on the cosmic and doing new weird stuff, that is why Eternals is being streamlined. Now, there are a lot of rumors of Dark Avengers, Dark Reign, and sort of a new phase for the world in the current timeline of the MCU happening after Avengers Endgame. I believe that will probably be a focus for them. A lot of the big Avengers that we know and love from, these first three phases are going to either die or go away. And there will be a new time that's coming out there. But there's a lot of people thinking that we're not going to be getting phases anymore. And Feige has sort of spoken to this as well. He said we might not even do phases. Phase 4 might look drastically different than anything we've ever done. And I think the main thing here here is it's not gonna take place sort of time frame wise. Like, it's not gonna sort of show us what exactly is happening, you know, beat by beat as we move along in this timeline. Eternals, probably way in the past. Some other movies, probably in alternate dimensions. Now, what I think all of these recent rumblings and rumors and comments by Feige and different people mean is that we're going to get this big announcement. All of this stuff's going to converge at San Diego Comic-Con later this year. And what's really crazy is I don't even think that this has to do with X-Men and Fantastic Four. I think that this is solely with the properties that they currently have access to, and they already have this roadmap and this crazy plan. Once you start to introduce and sprinkle in the X-Men and the Fantastic Four on top of that, man, that is pretty freaking crazy. I mean, you're gonna have content for the rest of time, and the streaming service really opens it up, allowing more than just 3 movies a year to come out. So much content with shows and possibly even other movies that will be just put right onto the streaming platform. But that's pretty much the news, guys. We got an update about the Loki series and the Disney Plus shows. They're all gonna be developed internally at Marvel Studios. That's a pretty big deal. Kevin Feige speaks to the Eternals movie and the future of the MCU after Avengers Endgame. A lot of cool stuff to talk about with that. Let me know what you think about this news in the comment section below. Now let's check the nerd card on the way out. I want to know what Marvel character was in charge of the Avengers during Dark Reign. Sort of a softball for comic book folk, but it's something we should definitely be talking about. Answer that question in the comment section below. Guys, we're doing another fan chat live talking about the future of the MCU today. Bring your questions. Come hang out at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, where we're going to be doing just another one of those fun, cool Q&A live chats. You guys love them. Come hang out then. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.